This will be my first video on my philosophical system that I call Lycanism, that I came up with February 2021 when I had a dream. It was a very kind of sci-fi dream, just feeling myself through numbers, through physics, through all types of renditions. I at the end of it, I saw this red skull that was like a wolf's skull. It was like a very psychedelic, surreal aura surrounding it. And it said one word, Lycaon. Then I looked it up. It was King Lycaon of Arcadia. It's a Greek mythological character, a lichen, basically. And I'm like, wow. I had such a strong connection to it that I just felt this need to bring it more into life, to make it more excitable, vibrant. So I just started writing essays. I just said, Lycanism, okay. Then I decided to write a bunch of essays for a whole year, up until August 10th. The last time I wrote an essay was 2 months ago. And it's like, yeah, this is my life theme. So I'd like to share with you some of these essays that I've written in Google Docs for the past year and a half. Alright, so I will start reading, and at times I will stop and try to explain why I meant certain parts, but yeah, here's my face. Alright, so Lycanism, a causal singular impetus. During my time in a suspended metaphysical space, I have temporarily lost my connection with the source of all of my philosophical wonder. I ponder, what is it that has disrupted my innate flow state? The answer has failed to reach my temple until now. My sense of time has been displaced and was no longer aligned with the framework that King Lycaon existed within. Due to this mental embodiment not being tethered to a conventional linear mechanism, I came to the conclusion that my psyche was being intercepted by the third dimensional plane, while the extrapolations that have propelled me into the perceptual multiplicity folded into a cohesive whole in tandem with the material's mental implications. The in-between states, the intermediate, is the cause, but it is also the effect. It is not a determined space, not made by anything, but it is exposed. It is instantiated into a cosmic background, earthly presence, a cognitive process. It is categorized as space, implying that there is an inherent emptiness in contrast to what is conceivable observer instance. However, it can be perceived as a conductor to probabilistic continuities that have a determined imposition that is implied in the sphere of awareness. Think of panpsychism, all that is, a thread of consciousness that is, and of all that is present in space, whether inanimate, animate, whatever, everything is connected by this thread. Now, one can say that space is the cause of all material interfaces. That is to be expected. However, its nature is not strictly bound to an emergent event, as the element of time is. With time, there is a measurement of space, an attainment of an objective at a distance. Wherever you are, the flow of other creations shall receive you in full, as the entirety of your character renders itself as the object of determination and dimensional interference. The more solidified your sense of self is, the higher the velocity of all material and mental processes, as universality responds to basis as opposed to indistinct presence. Now, what I meant here is that the more that you become something, the more that things flow through you, because you're not pulled by all these parallel entities or constructions. You are your own cause and effect. Your intelligence is not silly putty. It's very much able to hold to a certain direction and allow different types of energy, different types of primordial forces to sort of show you the way, to allow it to communicate with you without you trying to transpose any type of conceptual knowledge on top of it, or your own personal biased experiences, or any of that stuff. It's just pure, raw, communications with the other side, I'll say. But it's not like an afterlife thing. It's like something that is, but you just can't necessarily comprehend it. It's very much absent from the typical perceptions of physicality, material existence. Well, even metaphysical, it's not. Metaphysical is still tied to some physicality, but it's more loose. It's like something that's just completely bunks all your conceptions of reality. Alright, continuing the reading. Time exists only to show the interaction of two entities and the milestones achieved as the architecture of their consciousness shows itself. Synthesis that alters what it means to annihilate and expand on a form that demonstrates the aspects of space that light up in response to the cycles of said dualistic continuities. It exists because instant materialization is as valid as instant termination. Afterwards comes the illusion that both hold more conceptual territory than the emanations of being, demonstrating both principles simultaneously, thus being a conduit that affirms time, place, and space. So all of that which comes from cognition is able to kind of be mirrored in what is absent of cognition. It is a higher causal order. This is outside of reading. This is me just talking about what I just read. It's this sort of I was reading on the Boltzmann brain the other day, and it's just this stochastic pattern flow that you're able to have all of these kind of realities kind of correspond with each other somehow. It's not disconnected. Of course, yeah, everything's interconnected, but it's not just merely, this leads to this and this leads to this. It's like you're fully here, but you're also fully there. But something isn't clicking though. Because we get so fucked up and so torn apart by all of these different forms. We get lost in it. We think that we have to define it. We have to reaffirm what we think is ourselves, and thus anything that would get us to really show more of us, more of everything, it's just not gonna pull through because we're stuck trying to represent one piece of time that has already died the moment that it came up, you know. So this is all just like a deconstruction. Like much earlier essays, I talked about the deconstruction phase so that we can really get the whole psyche integrated into a holistic structure. That way, we just let our egos become like this sort of observer state, a non-conceptual space, like Jiddu Krishnamurti said, like we just become, we just are, we just let it be. We really reduce it to a moment rather than elongating something that is now just a phantasm, this abstraction that has extended itself out of turn. Now we have to deal with trying to make it make sense somehow. But in all of this, we create all of these systems, all of these notions that become very convoluted and just get in the way of just this simple truths of reality. Once you align with the truth, your vehicle, the body, aligns with it too. So that's that. Okay, continuing the reading. Now that I have expounded on time, let us go back to the nature of space. There are multiple agents that act as an integrated system, each coming from a mind that is contingent on the basis of an original body. All assume they have full estate over the one superseding an incoherent mass of interlocutors. Illusory maps of reference possess the observers as the nature of space is and isn't pulling at the strings of cognition in psychic bodies. Time is there to expand on what is a distant source of information and build structure with how space separates the false completeness that comes with being. So basically, because we have this cognition, the processing speed is trying to get to a place that has already been realized the moment that it came into being. So now we are connecting dots so that the universe can revitalize itself through our knowing that we are just cognizers, we are agents for things that are, but we are making something out of it to even just be a fractional consciousness that is able to take what can be considered dead really and to recomplete the life that has already passed. The faster, the more heat that is involved, the more energy expenditure, the more that the universe is actually just, the more that creation is and death is in the same space, and it makes a whole real. A whole is not comprehensible. That's why with all these dual realities, all these mirrors, there is no real reality being present, but that of which has already come to pass. Because everything changes. Like Heraclitus' example with the river and the man, none of those stay the same. When you keep contemplating it, you'll always reach a different place somehow. Because there is no real one place that anything has come from. Alright. Okay, continuing reading. Before material was perception, and before that was probability, and as a base was non-deterministic potential order. Space is continual, and with that logic, it is implicit that there is there has always been a current that allowed for space to seep into. The potential order acted as an entropic signature for its own sake, contained in relativistic abstractions with no particular utility in the universal process. It spontaneously emerges, maintaining its integrity while expanding on its original tenets, but not necessarily going anywhere. Space exists to affirm that the original reality has divorced itself from the exertions that came from its continuity. Time makes substantial the validity of what has come from a potentially observable cause and effect, while having instant materialization and termination cohesively organized in the vital points of a character's psyche. And being conceals a reality that cannot possibly be hospitable to any kind of observation recorded in the status of sentience or sapience. To know and encapsulate a presupposed knowing of phenomenon that has long displaced itself from the context of its existence keeps you trapped in the cycles of time, because of the nature of non-deterministic order. There is no telling when an emergent property will end or start, whether space will change or be so sterile that you can see the truth of what is observed, whether being can function to align with the original reality without getting swept up by the gross tenets of manipulating the matter that is limited to the vessel of its own origins. All is an empty conception that in turn makes for a false existence. The singular impetus for continuity is not here with you. Everything in the wake of the eyes and body is the aftermath, not a constant, though it may seem like it. Because of how we're basically just repeating what is already a primer within us. So we're just of this reality, but we have other realities that we can access too, of course. That when we really pull them out, when we really allow those channels to seep through whenever they pass, that's when we can break some numbers and some walls. Okay, it only ensures so as long as its a causal totality exists elsewhere. Self-knowledge as a result can be seen as an oxymoron, as yourself exists only at one time. So your access to truth changes too. With this in mind, one can be what was before the universe, this construct that tries to be the opposite of its base. Chaos against unfiltered chaos is how I would look at it. Now that's an interesting line I came to. I just started reading this today. I haven't looked at this since 2 months ago, and looking at this again. Chaos against unfiltered chaos. And I wonder what that would mean. I right now, having explored many things since this time I wrote this essay, I would say that the former, being chaos, is sort of redundant, residual, kind of empty base that that shouldn't be, but somehow it's still being powered by something, powered by a sort of chaos that's imminent in the field. In this case, the field of the subject, the psychic overture, and all that stuff. It's going, but it must be transformed. But since it's chaos, it has the potential to just transform at a moment, like just right at that moment, it could just burst bursts right through. It's like it's not waiting for anyone. It is ready to be charged, but it's just there. You can identify it as chaos, but it's not actively, you're not actively like feeling it. Unfiltered chaos, of course, is just, something that doesn't have a context that is holding it down. Nothing is superimposed on it, and it's good. It's just gonna go. It's just gonna show you whatever it wants to show you. It doesn't matter if it's unpleasant, if it's crude, if it's enlightening, sophisticated. It doesn't matter what it is. It's very much just going to be whatever it is that your mental body and whatever, all your bodies are coming to fro with. The more you open the chambers, the more absurd it may look, because it's not going to be defined. Like, I can bet you that there's been a lot of humans throughout history that have accessed certain planes that have not been written on paper, that have not been orally articulated, and any of that stuff. They're just completely implicit to the general collective knowledge base of humanity. It's just for you to see, because it's something you accessed through your channel. Because in the end, it's all just your mind corresponding with itself and attempting to click the chaos button, because this form that we assume right now is not it. It's just bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's all fucking bullshit. That's why I had to go through some solipsistic episode in 2018 to really know that, it's all just going, and I can't just act like what I am now, what I'm doing, what I'm thinking is all that, like it holds water. All right. There's one more paragraph in this one. In relation to the primordial essence, it is not something that you can own or systematize. It does not even belong to the universe. Now, I will get to this, but I am going to read everything, and I'll get back to this. Really. Think of this as a perception that holds a completely different set of tenets in contrast to the laws of this present universe. You only have a partial leash on the property, permeating with it in time, but it is not generous enough to allow for such easy access. Eviscerate the illusions by conforming to the laws of the unconscious. Whatever is part of the time and being, know that it is a consequence of what has been implemented in place of your inner space. The one thread of consciousness has an entropic nature, culture, that filters out that which would interfere with the lawful constitution of materiality. Since everything is predicated on an empty conception, the North Star of the mental is where will can be directed. I made this a brief allegorical statement for you, the inner you, to contemplate. To make a personification out of the universe and non-deterministic potential, they are speaking and representing as the father of perception, but they do not know who he is, so they collude into a sensible yet antagonistic union. And you, as the being, somehow is in the midst of all of this, and can make something out of these conflicting matters, in accordance with your vessel. The conditions are that the original tenets are engraved in all of your actions and thoughts, and are in service of your psyche, that has an implicit leash to another set of laws. Universe is the effect or illusion. What can be seen and will alter how the actions of a substance will appear fits into the conceptual underpinnings. Non-deterministic potential is cause, but it can also be acausal, as it isn't strictly bound to anything with its lack of time references, and it doesn't affect space, as it is an instant, infinitesimal, almost inconsequential in its dealing, but still is very telling as to what other realities one may conjure up. It is a sign that does nothing, but it could shine over what is being moved, and how you could be the mantle to the North Star. One question that is pertinent is, who and what is determining your reality? The best I can chalk it up to is when removing all of the illusions of a present character, there is only a principle born out of an imposition by what has been observed and by what never was. Yeah, that was the last paragraph was definitely a handful, and I was planning on reading more essays, but I will not. I think that this one was basically a good summation of all my other ideas. The other ones are quite like really heavy-handed and just really going into certain type of metaphysical directions. But this one is succinct enough, so I will leave it at this. But I will explain what I meant by this final paragraph, and I shall end the video here. So, universal and anti-universal is how I would say it too. See, now I'm using dualistic language, but here's the thing. It's like a lock. It's like a key in the lock. You put all the conceptuals together in a way that is, you're not just taking it as a concept and that's it. You're just using it just to understand isolated situations and mechanisms, and you leave it at that. No, that's not the goal here. Just for simply more intellectual understanding, and we go home and eat some chowder. Like, no, that's completely not my goal here. My goal here is to make a conceptual, like, sword or very sacred key, and we can just go right through, go into the door, and we see what we have to see. Okay, we use the concepts so they can cancel each other out in a way that makes sense, at least to the mind, because if it doesn't make sense, it's still gonna be anxious. It has to be so simple but so correct, and nothing can beat it. Like river flowing in water never stays stagnant. Like nobody can go against that. No one can say, "Oh, that's false. It actually is staying still." No, it's not staying still. It's clearly moving. So that's what we're trying to do here. At least I'm trying to do. It's just show that there are ways to complement the universe and complement the very ego, the very cognizer that is divorced from the full processes that are existent outside of you. And you can just definitely synthesize it in a way that will cut through all the confusions and anxieties regarding your existential placement. All right. So the non-deterministic potential it's just whatever. It's like you being the alchemist, like Faust. It's like just something clicks in the experiment, boom, you summon that demon. You just summon something that is somehow coherent, but it's still a cause. And, you're the effect. Yeah, that's this. Yes, this beautiful. This is a beautiful way to put it. You're the effect. That thing is the cause. Yeah. That thing could be anything. Whatever mental reality you come up with. It's all just to make yourself go for a trail that has the little fragments of cause that is there. You're the effect that is tracing itself back, like ray tracing and stuff. Like you're just going back, and you're showing the emphasis of light and shadows. The forms can show itself now, and now the appearance will become more elucidated, and now you have something you can actually respond to. And it gives you these new sensations and all that stuff. And now your definition of truth can be more aligned with an active purpose rather than just, something that is there, but you don't even know where it is. You can't pinpoint anywhere. It's not really a thing you can just put in time and say, oh, it was here and it was here. That's why history doesn't work. But anyways, that's another topic, and I don't want I don't want take a detour or anything. But yeah, that's it just makes sense. The father of perception, like I said earlier, that is, cause, and you, the offspring, is effect, and you can also be the cause by simply allowing yourself to be a vessel for things that aren't concepts, like you haven't conceptualized or others have not conceptualized, because the concepts are offspring, and the space that it came from is not conceptual at all. It doesn't need that shit just to operate. It's a cause by itself is good enough. Just like, how you feel like you want to hit someone. That's more powerful than you actually hit someone. Because when you hit someone, it's over. That sensation, all the things, all the memories, all the things culminate into that moment where you're just gonna go do it is gonna just fade. Especially when other events happen. Now you're part of another reality, and now your ass, is not that one thing is completely gone now, but it was very much alive. It was implying a completely different space that if you had just held on to it, and just instead of just simply acting on it, like you let the psychic otherness, the whole surrounding you, to send something to you, and it's like you can still like incubate that, and it'll make sense. Still, it will be more coherent, and you can allow it to breathe, to grow. You have to let the non-conceptual breathe. That way you don't need as much concepts. When you look at a concept, you're like, oh, there. You see right through it. You don't waste time with semantics or the rational side of it. You just don't waste time with that. And train yourself to just go completely within, and that's good enough. And you do whatever comes to you. You don't try questioning it too much or anything. You just let it be. It doesn't have to exist here. The corollaries will speak for itself later. For now, you just let it be. Alright. So that's my video for today. I was planning on doing a lot more, but I don't think that's necessary. I think this essay was really good enough. It was a good enough essay. So, for anyone who found it interesting, just let me know in the comments what you derive from it. And, yeah.